Okay. So here, always does this. All right. So here is it's sort of a lecture. It's a supplementary lecture to what we are doing in class. But this will go through more specifically how the book lays things out. Where in class, I tend to use conversation to demonstrate the stuff. So it might be slightly different. Things will be in a slightly different order, but ideally it all dovetails. And if you miss class, it might make more sense. Wishful thinking on my part, I believe. But okay, so this is let's get that wrong. So I'm not going to really spend a lot of time on the vocab in here because many of them are on the DVD or we've gone over them in class, but a quick go through. So pain. I also, in the slideshow, I'll link some other ones from YouTube. Cramp, like a twisting, or I've also seen it like a tightness. And you can place that wherever it happens to be. Cough, cough, cough. A few different variations. Let me tip this down. Okay. Have cold. Just kind of wipe your nose a little bit. Sore throat or sore throat. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're like, oh, I got pain, hard to swallow, right? So it's here. And in class, I usually talk about the fact that your facial expression is really important with many signs. Well, all signs, let's just be honest. With this one specifically, this is also the sign for thirst and the sign for lust. So you've got a spectrum there. If you go, oh, like it looks of pain, then it's not lust or thirst. If you're just like, need drink, thirst, right? That much more innocent. And then if you have a facial expression expressing lust, then this will look like lust, right? It's just drawing. All three of them are just drawing your index finger down your throat. So hopefully this is not the first time you've recognized the fact that your facial expressions are really important. They express the meaning. They provide the context for your signs. So be thinking about what you're saying. Don't be thinking about something else. Okay, scratching. I wish they'd put down itching, but it's you by showing where you're scratching, that shows where it itches. Makes sense? Feel tired? You're going to take your fingertips, keep your hands kind of together. The sign for have, to possess something, is here. And if you go from here and drop it down, it means tired. You don't want to do this for obvious reasons. And I will recommend start full of energy, so a little bit high, and then drop it down. Becomes a lot more clear, right? And again, your face. That's not it. Right? I'm tired. Swelling. We use this to show like a ball, right? So if I hurt my wrist and it swelled up, or you have mumps, right? So wherever, bump on the head, you get, your, I don't know, anything. Could be, if you hulk out, right? Can't sleep. Couple different ways. Can't. So can't. Imagine yourself. No, can't do that. Right. Can't sleep. Sleep. Right. Sleep. Like sleepy. So you can't sleep. That's the basic one. But you can also do toss and turn. You're rolling around in the bed trying to get comfortable. This also can be used for like laughter rolling on the floor, right? LAM LMAO. I always get that wrong. Anyway, another one that you'll see sometimes is like more along the lines of like insomnia or being up all night, and it's the eyes open and then a big circle, because this is the sign for all night. So combine those two. My eyes were open all night. So upset stomach. So one is this claw shape circling here, as if your stomach is all right. If you raise that up here, it's like, oh, I'm disgusted. This can also be, oh, that's so gross, makes me want to throw up, right? Up here, it makes me upset. It's like an emotional feeling gross as opposed to a physical feeling gross. If you do it up here, it means dizziness. So things are out of sorts. Now, I've seen this for like heartburn because it's specifically here. I haven't seen burn that often. So I'm not sure how effective that is. But if you've got that look of, oh, I mean, this is almost a better sign for her. Oh. Oftentimes acting out how you feel is very descriptive. If you can't remember what the sign for something is, show us how you feel. Vomit. I kind of wish they'd put dizzy with vomit. Anyway, vomit is both fives, right? And you can throw up. You can throw up a lot. Notice we also use it for hate. Ugh, I loathe that, right? I vomit on it. Pretty extreme. Now here's the fun one. Have diarrhea. Now we know this is poop. As I say, I post these on YouTube and I say these are not for kids, but we're definitely not talking about kid stuff right now. So poop, right? So clearly we know what that is. Okay, right? Poop. If it's not coming out, it's constipation. Right? And you would be like, okay, facial expression has to match. But diarrhea will be unstoppable. It just keeps going, right? And again, you wouldn't be like, so facial expression should, oh, right? For red, sign for red is this. And again, kind of like with itching, if you do red in this area, red nose, red eyes. So there's lots of things you can do, like, but red, and then just show us where it is. Rash, and then show us where it is. So just fingerspell rash. You could do like hives, and then so as if each one of these is a dot. I've seen that. This is measles. And if you look more sickly, measles as opposed to freckles. Right? So again, facial expression. We're starting to really see how important that is. And then feel sore. It's kind of like wringing your hands, sore. The impression I get is that it comes from this sign. And I'll walk you through it. If you take your thumb, a tight A, and pull it down over your lips, this means to be patient or to suffer or to deal with, right? Very specifically in silence, right? I got to put up with that. If you twist it, it makes it seem like it's really torturous, right? Tooth pain. Just have to put up with it, right? So the sense I've gotten from seeing how it's been signed in the past was that this came down and continued over the hand a few times, right? So it's like you need extra face to show how much suffering there is. So it's kind of like wringing your hands. So hopefully that's the image that sticks in my mind for the meaning of that. So those are identifying the ailments. And again, there's a little footnote on there. for pain. And here's some drawings of the same things. I'm going to try to put some colored backgrounds so you can see the groupings of the signs, because sometimes, or the slides, because sometimes it gets easy to get lost because they all look the same. So upset stomach. I've also seen this, but this tends to be more emotionally upset. Like you were feeling one way and all of a sudden you're something else. And another one that's going to come up in the dialogue is up to now. So if you point to the past and then bring it to the now, up to now. And the opposite, so the opposite of that is from now into the future. So from now on. Up to now, from now on. Then these are some practice conversations we can have. Most of the time, I will talk about how did people feel. For example, coming out of COVID, it's a pretty common question to ask. Did you have COVID? What were the symptoms like? Or did you know someone who had COVID? What were the symptoms like? So we'll oftentimes talk about that using the vocab we just went over. And again, then we can start talking about time. When did you feel this way? Or over the weekend, how did you feel? Most recently, a student was talking about how they work in a daycare, and one of the children trying to remember. She caught it. So from the kid. There's another sign. She didn't say he had diarrhea. She said they had to change his pants. Or pants, right? So another way that you could sign that specific situation is, right? So it wasn't just loose, it was caught by the pants. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Again, this is not for kids. Although in this case it was about kids. So including time. Last week I felt this. This morning felt this. And here's some review stuff. I'll put them at the end of every one of the Unit 14 slideshows, because it's vocab from the whole thing. But I do want to do one more note onto these. Specifically, like, do vomit. You can show how often it happened or for how long. And we'll get to that later in a couple of chapters within Unit 14. But we call this temporal aspect, showing how it occurs over time, or they're also called inflected verbs. So it's one basic sign that we tweak to show how often it happens or how long it happens for. So if we sign vomit once, I vomited, done. Wasn't feeling well, blah, felt better. But what happens if you're pregnant, have morning sickness, right? Now, this is a sign you may have seen it before, and we will get to it later. Every morning, right? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? So every morning, me wake up, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm adding that I'm going across to match every morning, right? You can just go. Now, it doesn't mean I threw up for an entire week. It means I threw up every morning. Right? So it's, I'll see if I can put a graphic in the actual slideshow, but I like to think about it as like a one arrow for a single instance, blah, or like a lightning bolt showing that it happened more than once, blah, blah. Or the next thing is, what if you threw up all night? Like all night. You weren't awake. Well, I suppose you weren't awake, but you were awake because you were throwing up. And with all of these, you're going to try to find a way of making them a circular motion. With some verbs, it's hard. With work, you can kind of make it circular, right? I have been working on a railroad, right? With some verbs, it's a little bit hard. You could just repeat the movement. I worked all day, right? So it's more about the feeling. And then with each verb, you'll find there are different ways. We could start like labeling what they are, but it's almost more important that you get that kind of feeling of it's this continuous looping motion. Right? Okay, so that's a little preview of what we're going to go over, what we did it in class. These two, specifically in this one, these two vocab reviews are really good. They're very clear. This one's great because you get much more of the ASL facial expressions, where the previous ones were a little bit more like looking it up in the dictionary, right? It's a little sterile. So she's definitely putting it in context. She also is really great because she will show from the front and from the side. So you can see how the sign is produced. And the last one is much more conversational. It's not meant to be clear to students. So just be aware that if it's hard to understand a sign, because they tend to be a little less formal, they're not as clear, this is how it's going to appear out in conversation in the wild. Most of the time, you're going to see people who are going to be very careful and specific so that you understand. And then once you get past, feel sort of confident with those, then watching videos like these will help because you'll see there's a lot more other distractions that are going on. And sometimes key points are glossed over. Okay, so that's 14.01. And I put in an assignment. There are assignments for almost every one of these chapters. Technically speaking, the Pink Book doesn't divide it into chapters, so I went through and did it. So the homeworks don't quite align with them, but I will try to include links to the videos so that you can watch them in these lectures if for whatever reason you can't log in or you don't have a place to put your DVD. So that's good for right now. Yeah, that's it. How do I turn this thing off? Badoosh.